Remember to take notes as you watch this video. To solve the problem 2 divided by 16, we are going to use long division. Remember that the first number, the dividend, is the number we are dividing, so it goes on the inside of the division symbol. The second number, the divisor, is the number we are dividing by, and it goes on the outside. To begin dividing, I have to ask myself the question, does the divisor 16 evenly divide into 2? And the answer is no. In fact, 16 doesn't go into 2 at all because 16 is larger than 2. So up here in the ones place, I will put the number 0 to represent the fact that 16 goes into 2 0 times. So now I'm going to rewrite 2 using decimals in order to find the answer. So instead of 2, I will put 2.0 or 2 and 0 tenths. And then I will ask myself the question, does 16 divide into 20? And the answer there is yes. 16 divides into 20 one time. So I put 0.1. Again, make sure the decimals line up. And then 1 is the number of times that 16 goes into 20. 1 times 16 is 16. And then I subtract that number from 20. So 20 minus 16 is 4. And I have a remainder. So since I have a remainder, we're going to repeat the process again. Instead of writing the number as 2 and 0 tenths, I'm going to write it as 2 and 0 hundredths. And I'm going to bring that 0 down next to the 4 so that I have 40. And then ask myself the same question I ask each step. Does 16 divide into this number here, 40? And it doesn't divide in evenly, but it will go in a few times. Since 16 is not a multiplication factor that people tend to have memorized, there's a couple of ways you could work that out. You could try multiplying 16 until you get a number bigger than 40 and stop, or you could look on your multiplication chart. So here are the multiples of 16, and we're trying to figure out how many times does 16 go into 40. So here's 16 times 1 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. Still good, still less than 40. And then I have 16 times 3 is 48. 48 is too big, so I'll go back one multiple to 2. 16 times 2 is 32. So that is how many times 16 divides into 40. So that's my next number in my answer. Goes in the hundredths place. And then I multiply. 16 times 2, if you'll remember from the multiplication chart, is 32. So I write that underneath the 40, and then I subtract. Remember, if we get a remainder, we'll repeat the process again. And we will, in this case, 40 take away 32 is 8. So since I have a remainder, I am going to, again, rewrite the number 2 by adding another 0. So now it's 2 and 0 thousandths. And then I take that 0 and I bring it down next to the 8 so that I have 80. And I ask the question, does 16 divide into 80? I'm going to go back to the multiplication chart. And here's 16 times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5. And I'm going to stop here because the question was, does 16 go into 80? Well, if 80 is a multiple of 16, then yes, it goes in, if we look up here, 5 times. So in my thousandths column, I put 5, and then I multiply 5 times 16, which from the multiplication chart you'll recall is 80, and I subtract. 80 minus 80 is 0, and so I'm done. So my final answer for 2 divided by 16 is 125 thousandths. Now that you've taken your notes, go to part B and solve the problem on your own, and then continue on to number 2.